So in today's sessions, we'll be talking about Microsoft Azure Well Architect Framework, and many of you might know me, and few people might don't know me. I'm Microsoft Azure MVP. I have been written two books on Microsoft Azure. The another book is coming up soon. I'm a blogger, solution architect, mentor, organizer of Global Azure Bootcamp, which we did it in Bangalore, and so I do a lot of those things in and around to the tech community to make sure they'll get all the beneficial the knowledge which we have. Even sure that all our MVPs also do the same, right? That's where we are interconnected, like Nandi, the Pune user group, and then Bangalore or wherever it is, Chennai or whomsoever, right? That's where we are connected, and our agenda is same to like just spread this Microsoft Azure technologies around the techies. So if you guys have any questions around this, and before we can start the Microsoft Azure Well Architect Framework sessions, once again, thank you so much for joining in, and let's begin. So in today's what we are going to discuss, like the first of all, why you need an well architect framework, right? The framework's pillar, right? What are those pillars, and what are the responsibilities between the clients and Microsoft, right? Because the client is something who is using the services and Microsoft who is providing that services, right? So there will be some services which will be limited, and what are those we'll be going to understand in this. Then we'll talk about well architect framework security, the cost optimizations, and I can show you a dash recovery of one design architect, and we'll be working on the performance efficiency. Right. The first agenda, why the well architect framework, is really wanted to know, right? So when you talk about why a well architect framework, as and when you go and talk to the clients, right? And even I've been talking to multiple clients, still, or the customers, or your managers, or senior manager, or whomsoever, right, or leadership, if you go and talk to them, right, they still not able to understand what are the best practices to be implemented, what are the services to be implemented, how to start, how to train their things. I have still seen like people are using their the traditional way, it's an on-premises way, and going and implementing things in Microsoft Azure portal, and then later on they'll come up with a lot of issues. Then they are just making some adjustment, making services working. Then again services that what are the services that's been broke in all of those region, right? This is not to use the architected framework, right? Not to use the policies, not to use the services, not to use the standards deployment, right? So many of companies, many of the customers, they even don't know where to start, what are the best practices. So I don't say that you'll use what Microsoft is saying that 100% can be compatible with your environment. That's not true, right? But what are the things is going to fit in your requirement, the best practices, the frameworks, the deployment model you should use, right? A few of the clients which they have a lot of questions, and if you can see a little butterfly is a customer look I have given, then say how do we they protect their data, how they're going to optimize their resources, how they're going to reduce their cost, whether they're compliant or not, the deployment you're using the automation tools or not, how you can design for the scalings, what's the whether your solutions is reliable or not. And not even this 7 8 questions, there are hundreds of questions which are lined up. In my 10 years of careers, I have never seen any of the client environment is so well designed that does not found a mess. Most of the places people will call me because they have a problem, so I'll go and fix it. And so one of you, right, if you're good in Azure and all of those things, right, it till people will call you because they have to understand the deployment model, networking thing, services are not getting connected because it's been not designed well. When the things will not designed well, let's just say if you're an architect of a building, right, you wanted to develop some of those parks, but if you didn't design well and you wanted to build as a curve, but if you didn't design well, it might end up with the rectangular. That's not these things, right? And then when the design went wrong, every component has their own places to shift. Okay. And that's where that well architect framework is really, really important. And I would say just as and when we go through the session, there are multiple things which we are going to discuss as well. But why it is important, and that is the reason it is literally important. So if your design doesn't looks good, whenever you are designing, you should have all the components, the discovery which you are going and talking to the customers, that I know that you won't get 100%, but at least you will get 60 to 70%. The discovery item, what's there in on premises, what are the things they are going to migrate it, what are the approach, how much understanding is client have around the cloud technologies. Because if you don't understand that how much understanding he or a client has it or your leadership has it, you will not be able to put your words because the terminology is going to change. So you'll have to shift to the business languages as well, sometimes to tell them this is how our simplistic looks, right? Then only you'll get an approval and all of those things. There are many ways when you work through as an architect and design and all of those things. Many areas which is the soft skills, and we'll talk about all of those things probably in our last slide. So the second one is the well architect frameworks pillars. There are 5 pillars. The first is cost optimizations, security, reliability, operations excellence, and then performance efficiency. Right? What is cost optimizations? Right? You got some environment in on premises. You have to migrate it as in green field or a brown field. You did a lift and shift, migrated to Microsoft Azure. Now what? Your cost is higher than your on premises, or your cost is more than that what you have budgeted. If you put it as it is as an Azure, obviously it is going to be cost a lot because in on-premises the configurations, the servers are different than the Azure. Here you might have an on-premises a one VMware or Hyper-V solutions where you have hundreds of VMs. The cost will be same because after the software and everything is running on the same hardware. But when it comes into Azure, for each VMs you'll have to pay a different cost, right? And there are many chances, and I've seen live that though even it's not used so vastly, but still you are using the same configuration as an on-premises. So whenever you are migrating, you have to think through that what's the SKU. Basically, SKU is a skill unit where you'll have CPU, RAM, and all of those things, the hardware configurations. That how you're going to match with on-premises and Azure. Okay. If it is highly used applications, you'll have to map to that SKU. If it is not, you'll have to lower down, right? That is one. And then the second one, once you migrate there, whether these are the important, the security can be the one important aspects. Then you'll have to monitor whether monitoring will be in place or not. Later on, your applications might be, that development or testing servers can be shut down during the weekends or during non-business hours. That could be your the one, right? And then you can use the automations in place to, not to use, uh, unwasted services. I have seen many of the clients, right? They are using VMs, they deployed for test, they deleted, but disks are still in the subscriptions. and that resource growth. And that is also costing around 500 to $1,000 per month. So you're simply wasting $12,000 money just keeping those disks which you don't want, right? So that's where I see like delete unused resources. Many of the public IP just laying down. Still, you are paying some $1.5 or $2 for one IP per month. But I know this is a small amount, but the number of public IPs will increase. That amount would impact. So there are many things like there are VMs which is not being used properly, right? That also you can downgrade the size and all of those things. So that's where you can use the cost optimizations. And there are best practices which is there into well architect frameworks pillar. I'll share you the link. Probably if you wanted to explore more, you can go there. Okay. Then it comes with the security. When you deploy your resources in Azure, you would definitely need in security, right? It does not comes when you say that okay, Microsoft is providing your all the security. It does not true. That's an equally responsible between client and Microsoft that they will provide the security and governance from their data center prospects, from their infrastructure prospects. But when you use your IaaS services or PaaS, top of that, they'll provide the services which you can use in secure environment. Let's just say if you have an Active Directory, you'll use multi-factor authentications for users. You can use assigning the permission to your security groups, right? If you wanted to allow an applications, you'll use application registration or enterprise application service principles for deploying the services. Then there are as a cloud defender, where are multiple services, network security groups for VMs and other services where you use VNet or subnets. Then when you are deploying in landing zone, how your landing zone looks like, right? You're using a firewall and all of those firewalls comes also in security. Load balancing is comes also in security. So there are multiple aspects which you can, multiple services which you can use whenever you are designing your services or migrating your applications and designing your whole landscape for the clients. There are multiple services which you can use. There is a security policies, cloud defender, IAM control policies, RBAC role, multi-factor authentications, just-in-time security, and there are many more. Security Copilot is one of them because that will help you or ease your job, right? Then the third part is whether once you deploy your resources or the services in Azure, what becomes a reliability, whether you can trust these services are reliable or not. Reliableness is like you put it there, what's their outage, whether they are performing well or not, and the services has been broken. When you migrated, did you check the compatibility? If not, then that also comes into this, right? Whether they are reliable with compatible Microsoft Azure or not, whether they are reliable, they're giving the 100% performance or not, right? And all of those things. Then the fourth will comes in operations excellency and before that performance efficiency as well. When you migrate your services, you'll have to make sure that how you're going to increase the performance of your applications, right? While optimizing your code using low code, no code, or using the less complex architecture. Like I have seen people is using three-layer architecture, and every layer they are just putting the load balancers. Though even they are controlling their traffic in on-premises using Westian, connecting to Azure, using Express Route. Then again they are using application gateway. Then it comes to one layer. Then again load balancers. Then goes to another layer, load balancers, NSG, and all of those things. So you can see, right, the traffic is coming from one place to filtering to another, then another, then another, then another. I'm not saying that, but many of the complex or let's just say government applications you would need it, but it does not require for all the applications. People are using it in development as well. and probably in I see an UAT as well. But that and all is it does not require until unless it's a really critical or government applications or hospital or compliance is needed, right? So things through that how simple architecture you can put in that's there and how you're going to manage centralized security around your subscription. That's where you can reduce the complex architecture and then I'll have a simplistic architecture. That's where you're going in increasing your offense efficiency. And there are a couple of operational tasks which you can do the automations and things which helps you right for that. So operational excellency that once you deploy all the resources, whether they are functioning properly or not. So how's their operations? 24/7 operations is going on. Whether you are monitoring your resources or not, services being monitored or not, then how they are performing, there are any issues. So all of those things will come into the operational excellence because once you deploy, you'll have to keep monitoring your resources, keep automating. Like if some of those VMs are not able to scale up, or a good example will take like couple of years back, there's a Flipkart Big Billion Day, and most of the uh, speakers give this example. At that time, there's a lot of you know lot of people have joined in. The traffic has increased, the websites has been crashed, and then they realized to that how they can make sure that operational will work 24/7. That's they use Kubernetes, Microsoft Azure services to get that operationalized, and a lot of other stuffs. Like apart from Azure services, they might use different cloud as well, but I'm not sure. So that's how they can use the scalable services, the operations that using the performance efficiency, how the services can be do right. And after that, there won't be any crash. That is the learning with recent example. If you can say that Hotstar, right? During this World Cup match, they have crossed almost 4 crore, 4 millions views, something like that. I think 1.5 or 2 million or 4 million. I didn't remember the exact. So that's the scalability, right? So if you can think like if they didn't optimize or they didn't use the their architecture well, the design well, if you have 10 to 12 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, or 40 lakhs people, your services will crash like anything. It should be scalable, optimizable, right? And that's why whenever you get a traffic, it handles that much of traffic. Okay? So it handles that much of crowd as well. So when people wanted to watch and all of those things. And that's why that all of those pillars covers when you design your architect. Then the shared responsibilities and the security layers, right? As I told, right, when you work with Microsoft Azure services, if you looked out a couple of services which is been marked by blue, it is customer, and grayed out it's Microsoft responsibilities. And then if you think through like the SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, and on-premises, as and when in on-premises infrastructure, a client has sole responsibilities for the customer, the services, and everything. Once it comes in IaaS, right, the client has the responsibilities of informations and data. So you can use backups, information protections, and all of those things, devices, identities, but identities and directories, applications, network control, operating systems, and all. But whereas Microsoft is responsible for the data centers, physical hosts, networks, and all of those things. But when it is comes with IaaS and PaaS, right, that has been divided. So if you can say the first three will always be customer, that the informations and data, the devices, account, and identities. But identity and directory infrastructures would be half, 50-50%. Applications will be 50%. Network control will be 50%. And even operating systems will also 50%. Whenever you space and says, it won't give you an option to choose. It will give you an option to choose the operating systems, but it won't allow you to go and patch those systems, put the security around, because these are the patch services. Like I think Mega has shown you in that static websites, you might have these options to choose Windows or Linux or container services to build your static application sites, right? So similar way, you can also see like these are the things which you can use, and these are the layers which Microsoft has segregated the responsibilities, right? So you'll never ever be entered to their data centers, but from the infrastructure prospect, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, there are multiple things. Like let's just say you deploy some services or you have applications which is connected to a database and all. But if you don't take the backup, right, and due to some reason your database corrupts, right, Microsoft is not responsible to recover your data at all. So in that case, you'll have to take a backup. They'll give you the options to take a backup. Same way, if you have applications running, right, you are using some of those automation tools and all of those things, and you are regularly backing up. If something is broke, knowingly or unknowingly, you can reverse back using the backup. Okay. But if you don't have it, I'll have to reverse back your whole code and you have to deploy from the scratch, right? So there are a lot of those things which has been removed, but it's always a customer responsibility to make sure the security which they are going to implement, the services they're going to implement, that should be other part of it. Then in well-architected frameworks, there are a couple of services, or you can say the terminology which we use. The first is identity and access management, where you are going and managing your all the identities, users, groups, computers, and then guest access management and all of those things will be accessed for what. The threat protections, if someone is trying to log in from your untrusted locations, let's just say there is from in India, if you wanted to protect, don't wanted to allow your, like, let's just say, take an example, you have an offices, right, in US and India, but apart from that, you don't want to allow anyone to connect, right? That could be a potential threat. Okay? You organize and define that policies. So when defining this name, locations, policies, and multi-factor authentications, the conditional access, right? Someone had tried to log in from, let's just say, Kenya or Pakistan or from any other country, it will just flag that this is unauthorized access. You cannot connect. So probably it will block as well. So that's how the threat protection works. Even someone is trying to from the single IP, there are multiple threats comes, right? So it will help you with multiple services which comes into the threat protection you can use. Then you'll use the cloud security features, let's just say cloud defender, security copilot, Azure policies, services. Then you can use the information protections, the part of Active Directory, where you have rights to protect your information, services, data protections, and all. You use the encryptions and all of those things. And then information governance, that how you're going to govern your whole subscriptions, the whole organizations, because on a one tenant you might have hundreds of subscriptions that have to be protected. We'll be using management group, and you'll be applying the RBAC rules to provide the access, role-based access control, like custom access, like if someone wants to give only the VM level access, they will be able to get that VM level access, and all of those things should be there, right? Then you'll have inside the risk management. So it will flag all of those risks, what is the potential risk. So they all use AIML mechanism to run those jobs and continuously go and connect it to your services, and then diagnose and give it to you that result, that what are the risks which you did. And compliance management, discover and respond. So there are a lot of things like your organization needs the compliance should be there. If it is healthcare customer, it could be HIPAA, financial and financial related stuff. So whether you are following the customer related standards or not, you'll get all of those things compliance it is into the cloud defender, right? I can probably show you if I'll get some time. So these are all of those things would be, there, right? Then if you get any threats, well, discover, and if you wanted to respond, you respond, or you can define an automations to respond. There are a couple of other services which can be also used as a part of security. And if you guys have any question, and you probably can type it into the chat, and I would be able to answer your questions during the sessions. Yeah. Then you have a BEF, well architect framework in terms of reliabilities. That covers majorly the high availability or the availability of your services. In that, you'll see they have kind of availability set, they have availability zone, data recovery, backups, right? This will make sure your systems are reliable. Let's just say something is broke, right? Then it should be able to recover it. That's where if you can look down the high availability, if you need, you can use the skill set, availability set, availability zone, right? And deploying a single VM with availability set, it's still we provide a high availability, but use one of those combinations, okay? In your whenever you're putting a design. Test recovery is pretty much important because when your primary environment goes down due to wantedly or unwantedly due to some disaster, whether it's planned or not planned, right? If your primary region goes down, you'll have to recover to the secondary. And that's where if all the products and applications are configured as in one region, you do not have backup, you do not have DR, you will not be able to recover in terms of any of the disaster. Then you'll have a backup. So you make sure it takes the backup of your database, app services, computes, storage, and all of those services. As and when you need to recover your applications or services which have been corrupted, deleted, or any services which is there, right? Still, you will be able to recover those things, right? And that's where we'll use the backup services. And these are the pretty much parts covered on the well architect frameworks reliability. Then comes into the cost optimizations, right? In cost optimizations, there have Azure consumptions, the services which is being consumed. It also gives you the cost which you have there, right? How you're going to analysis. It will give you which subscription is costing much, which resource group is costing much, based on resources, utilizations, which region it is in. Then you can set up a cost alerts, budgets. You can export that reports, the cost allocations, the reservations you can use, and you can also use the Azure saving plans. So reservations is, let's just say, uh, you are continuously using some one SKU VMs or storage for let's just say 100 terabytes. You can buy, you can commit to the Microsoft saying that you are wanted to use 100 terabytes of storage. That is committed, and that will they will give you a 40 to 50% of discount on that, like based on the your deal with Microsoft or the negotiations will happen. If you wanted to use the cost allocation, so let's just say you have a one budget, then you have to dedicate it, divided that budget to the multiple subscription. That's where you can allocate the budget to the multiple subscription. That's your budget for month. And if it is going more than that, you're going and configuring the Azure cost budget alerts. So it will give you an alertings. Same with the saving plans. If you plan for the saving plans, you can use it works as an reservations, but you are committing that, and then this plan you can move around the multiple subscriptions. You do not have services in one, then you can move that services to second. So it will help you to save multiple dollars, like couple of dollars from your subscriptions. Probably I can show you that demo as well. Okay. Now you have a well architect operational frameworks, right? You do four things in that: developed, deploy, operate, and maintain, right? If you wanted to deploy any of those applications, then you're going to develop your applications, codes, and other stuff, right? It means you also planning things in and around. So are you going to use the best practices whenever you are developing any of those services, tools, or planning, which has to be migrated or things around. Then the second phase comes as in deployed. Once your planning and everything is done, your code is ready and everything. Now you're going to deploy to the Microsoft Azure. Once you go and deploy, right, then the operations comes. That you have deployed your applications, now you have to operate, right? That should work 24 by 7. Your services are there, security are in place, and everything's monitoring, everything's there. The last one is maintained, right? Once you put the operations in place, your monitoring, security, everything's will have to maintain into the same state, right? Your services should not be down, and that's where your operational that managed services or kind of those stuffs will come into the pictures, and then we're going to hand over that. You'll have to basically maintain what are the best practices for that. Will be keep monitoring. There's a monitoring team. There's the regular security updates, patches, the security controls to be reviewed, right? There should be RBAC role to be audited, in services to be implemented whenever there's been new services coming, right? So you'll have to maintain to the same level as you developed or deployed, right? That's where that cycles will go around, and then new services will comes. Okay. Then in operational excellency, Azure DevOps could be a good fit tool where I'm just trying to show a design, right? If you are an engineer or you're working in anywhere, I'll have some Git repository or whatsoever. So you developed your code and put it into the one of the repository, either as an Azure Rep or GitHub or whatsoever. Then you're going in creating the Azure pipelines. Then once your pipelines is done, then you are going and patching the credentials from Key Vault, right? So it will take the secrets to build a unit test integration or publish testing, so build in artifacts and other stuff. Once that is done, you'll go and use your Azure pipeline CD, right? So the the second one is continuous integrations. The third one is the deployment. So we always say CI/CD pipeline, which is continuous integrations and continuous deployment. Where once you deploy a new code, it will automatically trigger a job, go integrate, connect to your other services, and download the artifacts and start deploying to the stage environment, or then it will go when it is passed, it will go and deploy to the production as well. So we can see there's a four steps, right? One, you develop a code, deploy, put into the pipe from the repository. The Azure pipeline picks this code using the CI. They will get that credentials, restore, start the build, and all of those things. Then deploy it to deployment, the continuous deployment, or download the artifacts, and they will start deploying to stage in production, and then go for the manual interventions and all of those things. Okay. And then in that whole process, if you can see, right, you are not even touching the Microsoft Azure portal. It's managed, centralized, right? So as much as if you can automate and reduce the human interventions to the portals, That's where your operational excellencies comes into the place. Will be more secure, reliable, and other stuff. And if you looked out, right, the other monitor application insights, analytics tools, and other services also can use and deploy together. Then operational accidents comes in place, right? If you can see, there are multiple monitoring tool which you can use, including the automations, right? Then you can use the Azure site recovery, third party integrations, Power Automate, Logic app, Event Grid, Power Apps, right? Basically, it is just trying and for the multiple services, how you can automate or protect your services so that automations can be used when you deploy an ASR. There's automations comms needed, right? When you use the Logic app, that your how your flow should run, that's also part of automations. You wanted to deploy patches, right? You can also use the update management, which can schedule your patches and you can deploy. So these are also comes into the place. You wanted to monitor the multiple services, right? So either it could be your applications, operating systems, resources, subscriptions, tenant, or users, or custom sources. If you need inside details of your applications, you can use the Azure Monitoring Insight, which will help you in applications, containers, VMs, monitoring insights. Then you can use the visualizations, dashboards, view, Power BI, or work apps, right? If you wanted to analyze the metrics, you can use the log analytics. It's a good tool, or metrics analytics. If you wanted to respond or get an alert, you can configure the Azure Alert or Autoscale. If you wanted to integrate with your ServiceNow or third-party tool, you can use the Logic apps or export APIs. And there are, nowadays been enhanced. It will give you that option that you wanted to integrate with your ServiceNow tools, Remedy. There is couple of things which you have to put in place, the authentications and authorizing all of those things. Once it is integrated, you can start, sending those alerts. Then this is just an example for a DR, normal applications where if you can look down in your primary infrastructure in on-premises, I'll have SharePoint, Dynamics CRM, SQL, and all of those. They are using Azure Site Recovery to replicate to the Azure Blob Storage account, which is basically that is called as a cache storage account, and then all the VMs is getting replicated. And from on-premises, you are using an VPN tunnel, which is nothing but it could be your express route or a site-to-site VPN, which connects to your VPN gateway, right? And then you are also going and synchronizing your Active Directory. Because until unless your identity is not migrated, you will not be able to authenticate, right? So just an good example of a DR, that's the recovery, where you can see, right, it's covers end to end. And if you want to get that design there, right, it's Microsoft Architect Centers. There's a couple of designs you can download from there. Okay, so I've just took it from there. Then the performance efficiencies. How does this you can increase the performance efficiencies while auto scaling, automations. If you're running any of the jobs which is in background, so like you'll have to understand whether these are the CPU intensives or IO intensive jobs, the batch jobs are running, the long running workflows. I'll have to identify like whether based on that you can increase your memory or consumptions for your services. The SKU can be updated or you can optimize anything. If you are processing any sensitive data, that how many layers of filtering you have put in there, right? So all of those things will also increase the load of your application that can be slow. So you also have to work on all of those things and optimize as much as you can right? And use an automated process to, make sure that they will run. If it is CPU intensive applications, you have to go and use high SKU related, CPU intensive SKU. If it is memory intensive, then you'll use less SKU, let's just say 64 SKU, and then only 1 TB of memory. If it is databases and kind of other stuffs, you also use the caching mechanism, let's just say CDN, or if you're using in databases, you use Redis caching, right? Which helps you to improve your scalability, performance, security, right? Operationals, and then it also provides you the flexibility as well. Then when you are using the data, then whether your data is partitioning, that how your data being recorded, whether how you're going to churning your data and all of those things, how to find your data you are using, right? The queries and all of those things which you've written, right? I've seen like many of the people, like one of the company, they just few of the engineers write a bad query that will kill the whole performance of your databases and all of those things. There are many things which you can, use to optimize your or use for your performance efficiency. Then assess one to become an architect. Before that, if anyone has any questions, probably I would like to take one or two questions. Azure landing zones, okay. Is BEF similar to the Azure landing zones? Landing zones can be considered as a part of BEF. Yeah. So Prabhat, right? Yes. So Azure landing zones comes under the well architect framework. Okay. Where it will help you to build your first landing zone, or the landing zone, basically what you can say, like the services you are going and deploying there, right? And all of those things which you're going to do. So it will tells you the best practices. Cloud adoption frameworks will also comes under the WEF. Landing zone best practices and all of those things will be there. And Sudhir has a questions, what is a good strategy to anticipate traffic and load? Like that depends on your applications, the business applications, right? Based on that, you'll use the load balancing mechanism, either the application gateway, load balancing, right? How much the traffic are there, right? You'll have to consider each things, whether your application is compatible with Azure or not. What's the code you are using? What languages you are using? That can be based on your computer, or can be a computerless, whether you can build it on Kubernetes container and all, right? So all of those things you have to take. But before that, I would say the discovery plays the important role. As much as informations you have for your applications, whether you are building a greenfield environment, a new applications, or you are just migrating it, the discovery plays an important role, and that's where you are defining the services, right? If you don't, then probably you can take in some assumptions and use the best practices and define your strategy, because you will not get 100% informations neither from the client, neither from on premises. So you take it accurate as in 50 to 60%. Then on top of that, you can use the best practices, go and discuss with the client that this is the design which I have put in. Do you have any questions? Take their feedbacks, and then only they will come up. Like as and when you design something wrong, let's just say half correctly, and show them right, they say no, 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 this is not the way. We are using in this way. We are using in this way. We are using in this way. So that is also plays an important role, that how you're going and presenting to a client. Okay. So play that things, and they will tell you that the way they want, the way they are using in on premises, it reflects to your Azure architecture. So it is more of the discussions. You understand, draft an architecture, go with them, talk to them, and then use the best practices. They'll tell them like, no, no, this is the way which we are using, and based on that, you can improve and define your strategy. For each applications is a unique strategy based on that how critical applications to the medium and low. And any architectural guidelines. Yes. So in terms of design and all, I would say like use the well architect framework and make sure you'll use the best practices. I won't say that you can use the 100% because it might cost too much to the clients, but what are the necessary or the standard services are there that at least you can use when it is really a critical or financial applications. You can always use the best practices, more secure, encrypted way, and all of those things. Okay, so make sure that you covers all of those five pillars in some way or another way. Else your design will not be complete. Okay. Okay. I think that's good for that question. Probably I can take it more questions. So there's a slide which I put it and put in my favorite. How you can become an architect. I would like, as we are the Microsoft guys, so it says an Azure architect, but it's generalized to any of the architects, right? As an architect, your responsibility is just not to have a technical skills or domain expertise, or could be a problem solver, or any things which you want, just to you wanted to deliver some project. You go and design, you go and talk to the client, they are happy, you deploy. It's not that. You'll have to have technical skills which helps the customer to build their designs, help your juniors to, they'll come to you, and then you will be able to help them because they might be new into the technology. They might stick somewhere, but as an architect, you know what you have designed, what you have built in, so you can able to help them, at least guide them. It's not that you'll have to write some of those scripts and have a expertise on that, but at least you should know that how to fix it. Whenever you're building a design for any of client, you'll have to have the domain knowledge. If you're building for healthcare, you should know that how the healthcare systems works. If you're building for financial, you should know how the financial system work. If you're building for transport, you know that how the transport systems works. At least I wouldn't say an expertise, but at least you know, right? Let's just say if you have a toll tax, right, where your car, you just drive your car to one place to another, but there are multiple tools, right? We are using one scanner, they will scan your code. But when your bikes or cars reach there, right? It's not the magic that everything's will be, say some mantra and then done, right? There's a technology behind, right? They've created the barcode. When that barcode is scanned, where the data will go? It will go to some of those databases or centralized system where it will validate your data, right? Once the data is validated, that will come to their systems, right? Then it will quickly open that gate. Once that gate is open, it will go and store that data. It will help. It will take your record, keep it there, right? And there are many technology. They might be using app services, Kubernetes, or whatsoever the deployment, also the cloud or technology they are using, right? But understand, a simple things which you see in your day-to-day life, right? Just a barcode, it's just not a barcode, it's a technology behind. The whole stack is behind. They have designed in a such a way that today a 1 million, 2 million, 3 million vehicles which is running on the road can scan at a time through the multiple, right? So that's a technology where they are using, right? So you have to understand the whole process, that how they are going to identify, define, and when you see this, some of this barcode is not valid, how they are making sure that they are not valid because they have been not registered or not recharged. That's where they'll comes into the blacklist. So all of those things they have written somewhere in the code. It's going and checking those values, right? And so that's the reason you should have this domain knowledge whenever you're building an architecture or designing some architecture for your these things. Then each design or each phase will have a learning attitude. You will have to learn from your leadership. You'll have to learn from the design which you have built from your client, get their feedbacks, have that learning attitude, learn from your juniors. Like it's in today's world, the technology is changing so fast that few people have skills on a specific, few people have skills on different, few people have some things, right? As an architect, if you don't have the learning attitude, you will stick to the one place. So always learn something new, and that's where you'll go and talk to your colleagues or your juniors. They'll tell you like what the problem they are facing, how they are coming up with this. Your leadership will tell what businesses is looking. So if you have all of those dot connected, right, you'll know what your business is looking, where's the problem for your colleagues or the juniors they are facing, and then how you wanted to design the things, right? So you have all of those things and how your client is saying. So all of those things you'll keep in mind, and then you can design, right? That is, I'm not saying that could be 100% accurate, but at least if it is matches to 80-85%, your job will be done. Then you should be in problem solver, and then you'll always have the positive attitude. Problem solvers, you think through the problems, okay? Whatever the problem, whether you know the technology, you don't know the technology, but you know how to solve it, right? You go jump in there because you build the design, you suggested the services, and now if you say you give it to your engineers, I don't know how they have the designed or how they have developed, what they have written, it's nothing. It's as an architect, it's your responsibility to be solve those problems or whatever the problems comes into the place, because they'll connect you. So always has the positive attitude, think always positively. Like there are many politics is happening around leaderships or wherever it is, clients. Few clients you get really good, few you don't get good. Might be your juniors talking behind some things that you're not helping or whatsoever, right? But these are the things which, as an architect, you don't have to think. Always be positive and concentrate on your, good learning attitudes, positive attitude. That's where, it makes the difference. So today or tomorrow, people will learn that what are the skills you have, and slowly and eagerly they'll support you. You always have to have a vendor agnostics, because when you design some things, it should not be a one vendor considerations, right? Let's say you are building in solutions with the Kubernetes or containers with the PostgreSQLs or MongoDB, right? There's a vendor called MongoDB. There's a Postgres as a different services, not owned by Microsoft Azure. Then you are using some security tool, right? Or the third-party security tool, SIAM. Then you also know that how you wanted to integrate, right? So there are multiple tools which is, or if you are building some solution on SAP, right? You should know how SAP works or how you're going to talk to SAP. So there are multiple vendors which is aligned with Microsoft, because Microsoft Azure just give you the platform. But you should know that those vendors should come into the place, how you integrate, how you can play with them, tell them what is your responsibilities, what they are going to do, how they are going to integrate, and all of those things. So that skills should be must. And always have the flexible solutions. It means that your solutions is still 100% correct, but tomorrow your clients comes and say, no, I wanted to change the solutions. It should not be static. It should be flexible, where you can customize based on your client or your organization requirement. Okay, should not be static at all. So if you use one services, you also know that there are another one or two services can be fixed in this solutions. So if the client don't agree to this, we can tell them like these are other services which we can use and have the solutions. So always your solutions will be flexible, because that your solutions go through the multiple review. It'll go with your leadership, then architectural review, then architectural code review, then client review, and then your when your team is going to deploy, they will also say what your design looks like, right? And all of those things. So if you wanted to become an architect, these are I think six. Okay, four, two, four, seven skills which I feel to be needed. Sorry, I just counted a bit. But if you really wanted an architect, you use all of those skills. I'm sure he will be make things really good. Then probably I'll have my last slides. Thank you. So these are my two books. If you wanted to read it, you can. They are available on Amazon. And my LinkedIn. You can always reach out and connect me on LinkedIn. Then as a thank you note for Pune User Community Group.